Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk today, the best daily sports betting show on the planet. And Teddy covers. We got a great lineup today. Marco D'Angelo joining us right off the bat. We got a nice mix of sports. He's going to look at the Dodgers at Milwaukee and also has a bet for us in NFL on the comeback player of the year. Guys, before we get into Marco's comeback player of the year, put up in the comment section who you think will be the comeback player of the year. I'm curious. I'm going to guess that everyone will agree with Marco. Ross Benjamin, the ex-lead singer of a Leonard Skinner cover band and one of the best bettors you'll ever meet in your life. He's on next. He'll be talking the Falcons. We spoke about them yesterday. Does he like over or under 9.5 wins? And he's also going to look at the Rays against the Astros. We got Nick Borman at the end of the show. He's got a bet for us on the FedEx St. Jude Championship. The tee-off is tomorrow. And a Saturday bet in Premier League soccer, Nottingham and Bournemouth. That might not be Premier League, but it's definitely English soccer. Teddy covers. What's your big game breakdown?
Big game breakdown is MLB for tonight. We're going to talk the A's and the Mets from Citi Field in New York. And of course, in What Bettors Learned, Prez, we did something. We accomplished something. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. And we meaning we, not the royal we. We, all of us.
Okay, so in case you guys are confused, not we. Okay. Before we start the show, I'm leaving for a cottage in an hour. Vivian has not packed yet. I asked her. Now, we're going to the cottage for 2 days. 2 days. Viv, how long is it going to take for you to pack? Teddy, what's the line? 2 days.
45 minutes? Over, under?
Half an hour. She needs half an hour to pack for 2 days at a cottage. We're not going to restaurants. We're not going out. It took me just under 3 minutes. She needs half an hour. Marco D'Angelo, half an hour to pack. You're throwing a bathing suit, 3 shirts, couple of shorts, 2 pairs of underwear in a plastic bag, and off you go.
First off, I gave her 45 minutes, so she went under what a normal woman would go.
Worst line ever. Marco, half an hour?
I'm on Team Teddy on this one. I have a wife of my own, and I know how long it takes to pack and how much she packs. Packs for 2 days would be like a week.
She doesn't need to match shoes with shirts. She doesn't need to bring 7 outfit changes to decide what to wear to the restaurant in Vegas on Saturday night. It's a cottage. A cottage. 2 days. Half an hour. Okay.
Yeah. You're over it now.
I will not be over it while it's happening. LA Dodgers. They're playing the Milwaukee Brewers tonight. Marco, how do we bet this game? Half an hour.
Well, guys, one of the things I like an angle in baseball is when we get a veteran pitcher that's coming off the DL. Now, most people are scared to play somebody coming off the DL because, hey, they were injured. This is their first start back. Well, when you're a big commodity like Walker Buehler, they're not going to rush you back. You're going to be ready to come back at the right time. I also like to take these guys in that first start because mentally, this is going to be the best you're going to get out of them. They're going to be mentally prepared for that first start. Why? Because they've been working their butts off to get through an injury and get back to the bigs. This will be his first start in about 2 months. He last pitched in June. This is a spot where he's coming off a strong rehab performance last time out. He went 5 1/3 innings at AAA Oklahoma City. He allowed just 1 hit in that outing. It was a home run, strong outing, and they stretched him out to 85 pitches. So I'm looking at him to have a good outing tonight. We also look at an LA Dodger team that's won 5 in a row, and they're hitting the baseball right now. They've scored 31 runs in those 5 wins, and now they got Mookie Betts back in the lineup to make that lineup even more potent. And that's bad news for the Milwaukee starter tonight. Frankie Montas has not been good. He came over from Cincinnati at the trade deadline. His last 5 starts, he's got an ERA of 7.92. And Milwaukee is struggling right now. They have scored just 8 runs in their last 4 games. And then when you couple that with the head-to-head history between the Dodgers and Milwaukee, the Dodgers have won 9 of the last 10 meetings straight up against Milwaukee. To me, this all adds up to the Dodgers. But I'm going to go first 5 innings. Why? Because I think I'm going to get a good outing out of Walker Buehler. He's going to give me good 5 innings. And I don't like Frankie Montas. So let's make it between the 2 starting pitchers. I'll take the Dodgers first 5 innings tonight.
So the plan for the Dodgers is not to pitch Buehler for 5 innings, I don't think. I was under the impression he was going to go once through the lineup. Does that change your handicap here at all? With Buehler, I mean, I heard he's going to go 3 innings at the most.
3 depends on the number of pitchers. I get about the rotation of, not needing to see the lineup, but he's been strong in his big thing, Teddy, in what he worked on while he was gone, because it was a strange injury that he suffered. I don't know if you looked at the injury he had. He took a line drive to his leg, which caused him numbness, and it affected his delivery, the way he was pushing off his foot, and he worked on that away from the team, and he says that he feels as good as he's felt. The fact that they went 85 pitches in that last outing at AAA, we'll see how the game goes, but I still like him. Even if he only gives me the 3, you're looking at then like a starter, where a bullpen game come in, you're going to have a fresh guy going through the lineup once or twice, or only once, I should say. That's always an advantage when you bring that next guy in.
Marco D'Angelo joining us. Marco, before we turn our attention to your comeback player of the year bet, one of our listeners, Neil Siri, writes, and Marco, I'll go to you first, and I'm curious, Teddy, what your thoughts are. He asks a question: would it be natural to maybe fall prey to not placing as much time on baseball handicapping now that football is here? So what he's saying ultimately is, and there's many options here. You can stop betting baseball. You can only bet baseball. There's many choices. But as 2 handicappers who are betting both football and baseball, do you find you are going to be putting less emphasis on baseball moving forward? And will that affect your win-loss record, Marco?
Well, for me, Prez, when you're going during the week, it's not going to affect me at all. And what I have done my entire career is, once we get into football, real football, not just the preseason, because it's limited games and I don't make many plays, I will not have baseball most Saturdays and Sundays unless I have something that absolutely jumps off the chart that I circled from maybe a pitcher's previous start and made a notation. I will be focusing on the football. But, for me, it's all about trying to find the value. And wherever the value is, you've got to take it. And remember, the lines makers are getting spread thin too. They got to cover all the sports as well.
Yeah,
and
well said.
You can find spots there. And again, a little niche sport for me this year has been the WNBA. I'm not going to abandon that whenever I'm having an 18-5 season. The job is to make money. It doesn't matter where it's at. Find the edges.
Teddy Covers, any thoughts there?
So I have a bunch of thoughts, but in general,
will it be half an hour of thoughts?
No. I'm trying to be brief, Lawrence, because I know that you're done. And of all the thoughts I have, what baffles me the most is your wife is packing now while you're working.
She's not.
She should be done by the time you're done.
She's not. She has errands to run.
Oh, so you want to get to the cottage and she's going to make you late. And that's what all this is about. I understand, Ron. That's welcome to the world of compromise.
Baseball
that's what being in a
thoughts?
relationship is all about. When it comes to MLB down the stretch, all right, certainly when it comes to Wager Talk today, yeah, we're still talking baseball now. As September comes around, baseball becomes, not that we never talk about it, but certainly football is on center stage. And we see that now. Every day we're getting more and more football talk on the show and a little bit less baseball talk. And that'll continue, obviously, through September and even in October with the postseason. That said, I'm having a pretty good baseball season. I'm having a pretty good run. I've hit 67% in MLB over the last 2 months. It's not like I'm not looking at baseball every day right now. I made money with baseball. I expect to continue making money with baseball. So it's a balancing act. It's what we always do. That said, yeah, of course, more football, less baseball as we get closer to September and beyond.
Well, let's turn our attention to some football. Marco D'Angelo, who is going to be the comeback player of the year, and what are their odds and why?
Well, guys, several reasons I like this play, and I'm going to start with I like the team, okay? I think the Jets are in position for a very good year. I think they're the team that's going to emerge out of the AFC East this year. Now, with that said, if they do emerge out of the AFC East the way I feel they do, or at least just make the playoffs this year, it's going to be for one reason. It's going to be because of Aaron Rodgers. And last year, going into the season, there was no more hype, no bigger story in the NFL than Aaron Rodgers going to New York. And you go into New York, that's one of the biggest, media markets in the country. All of the hoopla, the fanfare, Monday Night Football to start the season. And what did we get? We got 4 plays out of Aaron Rodgers, and he's out for the season. And all of the Jets faithful, their hopes and dreams were dashed once again. So with that said, if they make it to the playoffs, it's going to be because Aaron Rodgers played the season, had a good season. And when you're looking at bets like this, and when I say like this, I mean a bet that's not determined by a win-loss or an exact stat. There's voting involved. There is probably next to Patrick Mahomes, who's the most recognizable, biggest name in the NFL. It's Aaron Rodgers is right up there. And playing in the market that he is, if the Jets make the playoffs and have a successful season, I think he is a slam dunk for the comeback player of the year. He only played 4 plays last year. Going to a new team, he's going to be the savior. With that said, why do I think there's value here? Well, we're getting plus 130. I told you all the reasons I like the Jets. So let's say I wanted to just go out and play the Jets to make the playoffs. I'd have to lay minus 180. The yes on the Jets to make the playoffs is minus 180. And I can tell you, if the Jets make the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers, unless somebody does something absolutely, earth-shattering to dwarf him, he's going to be the comeback player of the year, and I can get plus 130.
So let me ask you this, Marco, because you're talking about a plus 130 versus every other player in the league, right? This isn't a yes or no. This isn't a, where there's 2 different guys and you can pick between them. This is Aaron Rodgers plus 130 versus every other player. Is that legit value for you?
When you phrase it that way, Teddy, no, it's not, because you are going, it's like playing a heavy favorite in a horse race. Okay. But if I feel that he is head and shoulders above the rest of the field, and for me, I'm comparing it to the Jets to make the playoff. I want to bet the Jets to make the playoffs. I don't want to lay 180 on the Jets to make the playoffs.
And I love that. I love that line of reasoning, Marco. And I think that line of reasoning is strong. Does Joe Burrow factor in here, Marco?
Joe Burrow played for a good portion of the season, then got hurt, and he's a younger player. The only guy that I think that would really have a run at him because of the nature of the injury would be if Kirk Cousins has a spectacular year in Atlanta. That's the one. But again, let's go back to the other thing I said. This is a little bit of a popularity contest as well with vote. And that's another reason why I look at it. There's times, I'll give you a perfect example, Teddy, to your other question. NBA Finals. If you have a team with LeBron on it or Steph Curry on it, and they're a heavy favorite, I like them to win the finals. Yeah. I will often look to play the MVP for the finals rather than play them the overwhelming price as a heavy favorite. Because if they do win, like I think they will, you're going to get a better number on the MVP, and it's a popularity vote.
And it's great reasoning, Marco. And I think you explain why there is value there. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please take a second and hit that like button. And I'm telling you all now, the segment with Ross Benjamin coming up, that's going to be a Hall of Fame segment. I'm letting you guys know ahead of time, so do not go anywhere. Marco, what do you have to promote?
Well, we've got tonight a big 4% play. We're running very well in baseball. Again, we got a 4% play. You know the success we've had with those. But I'm going to tell you, you can buy that play for $25 tonight, or you can buy a 7-day all access for the price of a 3-day all access. I would do that $69. Why? Well, you're going to get all of my plays tonight. We're on a 13-7 run the last 7 days. You're going to get a WNBA play tomorrow, 18-5 on the season. And then I've got a couple preseason games going this weekend as well. Guys, going back to last year, we're 7-0 preseason football. I don't release a lot of them, spot plays, but when we release them, we win them. So I would grab that 7 days for the price of 3 right now, just $69.
Marco D'Angelo, thanks for joining us, my brother. And that promo is site-wide. We'll talk about it in a second. Teddy covers. I told you we had a hard stop today. The hard stop is out the window. Vivian needs half an hour to pack 2 days of bathing suits. What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
So there aren't that many times that I can come on the show and say, hey, I really affected something that happened in the industry. And I'm not convinced it was me. I think it was all of us. But we yelled pretty hard when DraftKings said they were going to put on a gaming surcharge. Here's the tweet from DraftKings yesterday. Quote, "We always listen to our customers, and after hearing their feedback, we have decided not to move forward with the gaming tax surcharge. We're always committed to delivering the best value in the industry to our loyal customers." Well, you have loyal customers now because you decided not to deliver the gaming check, not to move forward with the gaming tax surcharge, something we talked about last week. This was important, all right? It really was. There's something else that's going to be important in just a minute, but this was something we all, as handicappers, it wasn't just me that yelled, everybody yelled. We banded together, and it worked. Great job, everybody. Great job, DK, realizing quickly that this was a particularly bad move for your clients and for the industry. Thumbs up. Now we have more to worry about. The next thing, -110, becoming -111, become -112, becoming -115, becoming -120 on both sides, like Caesars is doing for NFL preseason. You can't beat -20 both ways any more than you can beat a winner's tax. You got to give bettors a fighting chance. That's what WagerTalk does. That's what WagerTalk today was. Give you guys does a fighting chance. That's what the best books in Vegas do, the Circa, the Sportsbook, the Superbook, the South Point, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we're going to focus on next. So we got DK to backtrack. All right. It was a must-win situation for bettors, and we did it. Great job. Now let's worry about this -110, which is getting frittered away at various websites. Let's make sure that we're focusing on the websites where you can actually have a fighting chance to win, where you make your wagers. Lawrence, I consider that to be good news.
Teddy, outstanding. I think it was all you. I just, for the record, the day after, I did tell you that I'd spoken to a CEO of a company that was large and a competitor, and that DraftKings were going to backtrack on that. So although I didn't do the heavy lifting, you did, and I'm surprised they didn't tag you. I did predict it, and I am actually in the prediction business. Speaking of the prediction business and predicting things, Teddy, I have not had a play in baseball higher than a 3% play all year. Not one single play. I've had 0 4% plays and 0 5% plays. Today, I am stepping out. Today is my first 5% baseball play of the entire season. It is my first play over 3% on the entire baseball season. I have been doing well of late in baseball. I've won 4 of my last 5. I also roll on these plays that are 4% and higher on a 24-10 run. And instead of buying my package, guys, please use that promo that we are offering. My 5% play is $35. You can go onto my page, and for $69, you get a 7-day all-access pass. Please take advantage of my hard work, and let's all win together. Ross Benjamin! Let's get the first game out of the way, and then we're going to discuss the conversation that Dan Alexander and I had on Saturday morning, where both of us were crying with laughter. So, with that said, let's get into the first game, Ross. What might it be? Yes. Yesterday, I spoke about the Atlanta Falcons. I said to Teddy, I like them at minus 120 to win the division. I think the division is very, very weak, and I think Kirk Cousins might go down as the most underrated quarterback in history of the NFL. Now, that doesn't mean he's the best, but he's definitely the most underrated. You like them over 9.5 wins. Teddy, for the record, disagreed with me. Not vehemently, but he didn't find value on the minus 120. You like over 9.5 wins. Tell us why.
Well, I mean, you got to think like a bookmaker here, or an odds maker to be specific. I mean, you're looking at an Atlanta team that hasn't won more than 7 games since 2017, Press. And here they are with a first-year head coach at Atlanta anyway, Raheem Morris, bringing in his new coaching staff. First time on a job on the sidelines with the Atlanta Falcons, and all of a sudden they come up as a 9.5, over 9.5 regular season wins. They're begging you to take the under, Teddy. I mean, here's the thing. Here's how I measure strength of schedule in the NFL. I keep it simple. I look at the opponents, the team, who they're facing, their opponents, I should say, in this case, Atlanta's opponents this year, and I add up what the books have their regular season win totals as, and they're the lowest. So, in other words, to be specific or to make it more clear, Atlanta's opponents, when you add up all their regular season win totals for this year, are the lowest in the NFL. And that speaks volumes to me. Why? Because since I've been using this formula, I've been keeping track to how these teams do. Teams like Atlanta, playing the easiest schedule, like I just alluded to, using the parameters I just used, have gone 65-28 straight up over the last 5 seasons. So, number one, the easy schedule has benefited them. And number two, you find a few of these teams that nobody really saw coming because they've had bad years. And because they've had bad years the year before, their schedule is easier.
Yeah.
You know what, Theodore? I can care less about the roster moves, in this case, the additions and subtractions. To me, this is just a contrarian approach that I'm using here, because why is Atlanta all of a sudden over 9.5? I know they're not playing in the strongest division in football, but again, I'm looking at their schedule. I'm looking at the fact that I think the odds makers are begging you to go under the total here. You're laying juice to go over the total. A lot of things I like about this pick, Teddy.
So I'm going to start. I have so many questions, but I want to start with Raheem Morris, who has one previous chance as a head coach, and his tenure with Tampa Bay, where he went 21-38. I'm not a guy that rips head coaches. Raheem Morris was the worst head coach in the NFL during that span. Now, admittedly, it took him 13 years to get another job. But we have a team a franchise with no recent history of winning, a coach with no recent history of winning, with no coach who did a pretty miserable job in his last stint as a NFL head coach. You have a quarterback coming off an aging quarterback coming off a serious season-ending injury who hasn't been able to take snaps. Aren't there just way too many question marks with Atlanta? Forget the schedule for a minute. Is the team good enough?
This is going to be my quickest response I ever gave you, Teddy. And you always come up with intelligent answers or questions, and this is no different. But why are they over 9? Just why is the regular season totaled 9.5 then?
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
the
Ross,
bookmakers looked at their schedule and said this schedule is weak.
Well, I mean, again, Teddy, if indeed everything you're alluding to is true, let's start with the Raheem Morris subject, okay? Was Tampa Bay's talent in his reign back 13 years ago as good as what we're looking at right now with Atlanta? And then couple that with, was Tampa Bay's schedule as easy as Atlanta has this year? Now, to me, a team hasn't won more than 7 games since 2017, Teddy. No matter how you cut it, why are they 9.5?
Ross,
I don't care what the schedule says. Go
Ross, listen, I'm a fan of Atlanta moving forward this year. With that said, I don't handicap that way. I mean, to me, it's like, hey, if the books are going to give you a gift, you take it. You don't overthink it and go contrarian. So I'm not buying into this concept of why is it, therefore I'm going over. My follow-up question to you, and I know we're running long, but so be it. Vivian needs half an hour to pack 2 bathing suits. My follow-up question to you is, the winner of this division could literally get into the playoffs at 7-10 or 8-9. Why would you want to bet that Atlanta gets 10 wins when you could bet minus 120 that they win the division and cash your bet on 7 wins?
Well, you just said this division, you deem the division champ to possibly have a losing record and still win a division. And I get where you're going with this, President. It's a very good point. But by the same token, I think Atlanta shapes up to be the best team in this division by far this year. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Me too.
And by having said that, they're playing 6 games within the division, right? I don't see them winning any less than 5 within their own division this year. Okay, so that's 5-1. That leads them to have to go 5 and
But again,
6.
Ross, I get it. But
Yeah,
the better bet, if you like Atlanta to get to 10, the better bet is to win the division and give yourself a slight window. But that's why we do this. Some like blondes, some like brunettes. Teddy likes them all. Ross.
So I'm going to strongly disagree with Lawrence there. Strongly disagree.
Of course.
Okay, because here's the difference. Atlanta over their win total. There's only 2 choices. It's Atlanta over or Atlanta under. There ain't no push. All right, they either win 10 games or they don't. When you talk about a division bet,
you got to beat
there are 3
teams.
other alternatives to Atlanta.
Fair enough.
So it's not A versus B. Now,
Fair
can
enough.
any of those 3 other teams win 10 games?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So is there a way to cash it without Atlanta winning 10 games? Yes. I think it's reasonable to think that Atlanta could win the division at 9-8 in theory. But when you're talking about 3 other options as opposed to just 1 other option, it's the difference between a positive expectation bet and not so much, Lawrence. So that's my take.
Guys, what do you think? Teddy, you think I'm wrong on everything. So it really makes your credibility on me being wrong is 0. Ross, let's move on. We got to move on.
Yeah,
we got to move on.
One quick point, though. To me, what Teddy just said, it correlates to betting a parlay, a 14 parlay, or betting a straight bet on Atlanta. Win over 9.5 or under 9.5. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Guys, Ross Benjamin joining us. And last Friday, we did a show with Ross, and he told us that at one time he was the lead singer of a Leonard Skinner cover band. To prove his point, I woke up on Saturday morning and I found this picture in my Slack, Dan. So there is the picture. Now, Ross is the guy in the back in the pink shirt with the feathered 1980s hairdo. So I passed this picture on to Dan Alexander, and I want to give Dan the credit here because Dan went off. I basically just stood back and listened. So here is what Dan said. What is the name of this band? Gums and Roses? And then I wrote, no, it's Gums and Catatosis. And then Dan wrote, do they play hair plug metal? And then I wrote, oh my God, Dan, keep going. He's like, they don't have groupies. They have caregivers. Then Dan writes, maybe they're called Dead Zeppelin. And then he's right. And then I wrote, the Almost Dead. And then Dan wrote, if Ralph joins the band, we can call them the Depends. Or maybe they're the Dying Straits. And I wrote, well, instead of OMD, maybe they're just OLD. And this went on for an hour, Ross. Dan was magnificent. I mean, holy crap. I could go on forever. Neil Not Young. The grandmas and the grandpas. Yeah. So feel free to add your thoughts to the name of this band that Ross is in. But kudos to Dan Alexander. Teddy, did you know he had such a quality sense of humor?
I know that's a cool pick, man. Forget that. I mean, let's give Ross some credit.
Yeah.
Listen, do you expect, this is where both of you geniuses don't stop to think. Do you really think a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds are going to be a Leonard Skinner tribute band or a classic rock band?
Yeah,
come on,
I
guys.
do.
Wake up and smell the coffee, for crying out loud. You know, Prez, I'm starting to worry about you. You go on too many vacations. You had too much time off over the last 2 months, and it's depleted your thinking process. And Dan, I'm glad I can amuse you. As Joe Pesci says, how do I amuse you? Anyway, let's move on.
Dan is a brilliant man, Ross. And yes, I do think there are young Leonard Skinner cover bands.
Oh, show me.
Yeah.
Show me.
Again, so Vegas is the king of the cover bands. There's 100 cover bands in every lounge, and ain't none of them in there. They're not the bands that Isaac's auditioning for. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, they're not in their 80s like that band.
Oh, will you stop? Will you stop?
Yeah, they are.
Here's the guy
Ross,
with gray short hair, and he's making fun of a band that has more hair than him. Nobody's
no. They don't have more hair than me. Oh, because my hair's not long doesn't mean that a long person has more hair with blah, 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 blah. Ross,
you've been to too many
Ross, I'm
Dead
jealous, bro. Dude, I'm jealous. Flat out jealous. The fact that you get to stand on stage and have people throw, Depends at you. It's incredible, dude. Incredible. You are a star in my mind. Rays versus Astros. How are we betting this game?
We're getting back to sports, thank God. All right, let's take a look at that game. And the Rays right now are a plus 105 money line underdog in this game. And, you look at the starting pitchers in this matchup, and it's easy to perceive. Ronel Blanco, who's pitched a no-hitter this year, looks like to be a star in the making. And he's facing a guy like Zach Littell, whose numbers are sort of so-so when you look at his numbers, but you got to dig inside the numbers a little bit because Littell's ERA at home is over 2 runs lower than it is on the road. Additionally, Littell has shown good form over his last 3 starts with a 2.04 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP, which are excellent numbers. The Tampa Bay bullpen since July the 1st has been really good. They started out the season shaky, but they've really turned it on over the last 6 weeks, and one of the better bullpens in baseball right now. Now, I mentioned Ronel Blanco. Again, he had the no-hitter earlier this season, but his last 4 starts, he's exhibited shaky form with a 5.68 ERA and a 1.47 WHIP. The concern when you look at this matchup is you're looking at a guy like Blanco, who's perceived to be the better starting pitcher in this matchup. He's facing a team that's been anemic offensively in the Tampa Bay Rays. And why is Tampa Bay just a short underdog of plus 105? And I am going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays here, plus 105. I know this is going to irritate Prez because, as he alluded to with my theory on the Atlanta Falcons going over the total of 9.5, it's sort of the same thing. It's what we perceive to be the better team, the better hitting team with the better starting pitcher, yet they're just anywhere from a minus 115 to minus 125 favorite with a way better record. So, Teddy, I am going to go with the underdog Tampa Bay Rays here, plus 105 over Houston.
Ross Benjamin says, ride the cold, fade the hot. Rays 2-6 in their last 10, or in their last 8. Astros have won 7 straight. And Ross says, we expect that to change today. Look for Tampa to pull off the upset victory. Ross, you've been running good all summer, my friend. What do you have to promote right now?
Yeah, right now, I mean, if you look at my 5% top plays, it's ironic because I heard Prez say he's 24-10 with his last 34. I'm exactly 24-10 with my 5% top plays since February 4th, all documented by WagerTalk, and it's good for a profit of $6,500. Football's here, folks. It's sneaking up upon us. We're in the middle of the preseason right now, but more importantly, regular season college football and regular season NFL, plus the playoffs, plus the NFL Super Bowl, plus the college football championship game, all right now for $777. I know that might seem like a big investment to a lot of you, but guess what? Last year, I proved my worth. Was number 2 at the site in terms of combined money earned in the NFL and college football, and that included all the postseason in both college football and the NFL. So, folks, stop with these $25 picks. Stop with these $77 specials. Look, those are all fine and dandy for guys who play on occasion. I'm asking you to invest in me long-term, and you're going to make money over the long term and not just over the short term. So there you go, guys. Always a pleasure to be with you too.
Ross Benjamin with a Steve Merril style sales pitch. And Ross, I love having you on the show. I love you. I love that we can make fun of you. I do think you should change the picture you're using on the site. You look way better in real life than you do in that picture. Awesome stuff, Ross Benjamin. And if you do buy that package, guys, you get a lifetime membership to any cover band that Ross Benjamin is in. Teddy, I don't understand why we don't have 156 likes. There are 156 people watching us right this second and only 41 likes. Makes no sense to me. Guys, let's go. Teddy, it's time for your big game breakdown.
Big game breakdown for Wednesday. Let's talk some MLB for tonight with the Oakland A's continuing their series at Citi Field in New York against the New York Metropolitans. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing the Mets in the minus 175, minus 180 range. If you shop around, you can find a little bit better. But I want no part of the Mets in this ballgame. The A's are 13-8 since the All-Star break, winning right now. They're 21-13 since the beginning of July. This isn't just a short-term little hot streak. It's a team that is significantly exceeding expectations. It's a young team trying hard. They lost the opener of this road trip. They're 3-0 since. The bats are clicking. They scored 17 runs over the last 2 games. High leverage relief arms for Oakland. They're all rested. Back-to-back blowout wins here at Citi Field and one in Toronto on Sunday. A day off in between. The Mets. They've been a 500 team since the All-Star break. Since the All-Star break, the A's are 13-8. The Mets are 12-12. The Mets are 2-4 their last 6 at home. They're 0-4 their last 4 games. Oakland comes in hot. The Mets come in cold. They've only scored 5 runs in the 4 games combined. Starter David Peterson, we like him, but he's not eating innings. And that obviously is a concern when when you talk about the struggles the Mets bullpen continues to have. A starter, Joey Estes, he's had a couple of brutal outings this year. And they're all on the road. At Boston, he got lit up. At Minnesota, he got lit up. At Houston, he got lit up. He gave up 22 earned runs in a combined 8 innings of those 3 games. And if that happens here, we'll lose this bet. But his other 12 starts, Estes has allowed a grand total of 21 earned runs. He's been a lot more good than bad. He's allowed 2 earned runs or less in 4 consecutive starts and 7 of his last 8. This is a ride the hot, fade the cold, and you're getting a big plus price with the underdog, with the hot team. I'm interested. No argument with an under wager here either. I'm not convinced the A's are going to light up Peterson, but I think it's a live dog for Oakland right now. Current form matters more than full season records. The A's are playing good ball right now. The Mets are not. And you get Oakland in a nice plus price range, plus 160 and even higher if you shop around. That's worthy of a wager for this better. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, El Presidente.
Teddy covers, Nick Borman joining us, a scratch golfer, a great dude, and a guy who sent me a video of him hitting a garbage can, 60 yards out with a pitching wedge?
It was a Bell with a Stinger 4-iron.
Oh, yeah,
Rang the
yeah.
bell.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful, Nick Borman. Dude, I listen, Nick, I need you to come to Toronto. I can't get rid of my slice. It's killing my game. I know everything I'm doing wrong. I got an outside in swing. I'm stepping back at the end of the swing instead of going forward. I'm drawing around my body instead of getting my hands in front of me. And yet I cannot fix any of it.
Yeah, knowing what you're doing wrong and changing that is a whole nother animal. You got to feel it. It's just a matter of trying to get whatever works for you to get the feel difference. Once you get the aha moment and the feel, it still takes time. You're going to have a bunch of, I call them squirrely shots, but we can work together, Prez. I can get you. I can help you.
Yeah, so get your butt to Toronto and give me some damn lessons, bro, because I ain't coming down to New Jersey. Speaking of a Canadian golfer, Corey Connors, top 20 plus 100 in the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Why is this an important event? I mean, why are we discussing this? I mean, granted, there's money to be made.
Yes, this is the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs. So for the next 3 weeks, it is elimination. We got 70 in the field this week, then 50, then 30 to crown the FedEx Cup champion, which is the biggest payday in golf. So yeah, it's a big deal for these next 3 weeks. Corey Connors, specifically this week, I think is a great guy to look at this tournament. Andy Lang and I do the Tea Time show, breaking down, in depth kind of the golf tournament for the week. So if you check that out, I go into depth about the skill sets that I think are, weighted, that are, at least I'm weighting the most this week, that are important. And I think that's driving accuracy and your approach shots, not so much putting, not so much around the green. And Connors, he fits that mold as a ball striker. The golf course, it's called TPC Southwind. It's very small greens by tour standards, 4,300 square feet. Doesn't mean anything, but compared to average on PGA Tour, 5,500 to 6,000, it's quite a bit smaller. The smallest greens on tour are just barely less than this course. So very small greens and very thick rough mean one thing. Ball strikers are going to excel a little bit better because they're just going to simply hit more greens. You miss the rough a little bit and you're trying to hit out of thick rough into a small target. It's a little bit tougher. You got to be able to put spin on the ball. So that's why I like that skill set this week. And Connors has it. He ranks 15th this year in total driving. That's a combo of distance and accuracy. Mostly it's accuracy that's helping him in that ranking. He also ranks 4th strokes gained approach and 11th in greens and regulation. Simply put, the guy can flush his irons. This week is a par 70, meaning it only features 2 par 5s. If you look at his, not only just this year, but going back long term, his scoring, he genuinely does better on par 3 and par 4s. This year alone, he ranks 11th in par 3 scoring and 23rd in par 4 scoring. Falls all the way to 61st in par 5 scoring. That's simply because he's not long. He doesn't get home in 2 like a lot of the guys do. But these 2 par 5s are shorter. Even he can get there in 2. So you're kind of taking away a weakness. The course plays into his strength. And then he also has great finishes coming into this. He's just a consistent guy. He's finished in the top 25 in 15 of his last 19 starts, including 4 top 10s in just his last 7. So course fits him. He's got the skill set I think that matters this week. And then he finished tied for 6 in this tournament last year. So he's comfortable here. So I like Corey Connors. Top 20 is even money. You can go different. You can go top 10. Outright's probably asking a lot, but I like him to play well this week.
Corey Connors with a top 20 finish. Lay one to get one with that wager, says Nick Borman. Nick, let's turn our attention to the English Premier League. England Premier League coming back this weekend. Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, 10 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday morning, 7 a.m. here on the left coast. And we're basically looking at a pick-em price range here. Nottingham Forest is short favorite on the three-way line, plus 190, plus 145, plus 250 for the draw. You're interested in the total more than the side. 2.5, it's juiced to the over now. We've seen over money on this from 2.5 even money. Now I'm seeing minus 30 on the total. Talk about Nottingham and Bournemouth, BTTS.
Yeah, these are two teams that are in the bottom half of the Premier League table. Forest was the team that was the closest to being relegated, that just stayed in last year. And both of the reason for that is these teams just, they're very porous on the defensive side. They just simply don't have good defenses. Because of that, you look at a lot of the data from last season. First of all, the Premier League in general was a very high scoring, was one of their highest scoring years they've ever had in the league. And they had a both teams to score rate. That's a very common bet on soccer, is just betting both teams to simply score. 61% overall both teams to score rate for the entire league. And then you look at these two teams individually. Bournemouth was 23 and 15, both teams to score. So 23 times they did, 15 times they didn't. And they were 27 and 11 when just comparing over 2.5 goals. Sometimes they might lose, 1-3, and you're going to cash both of those bets. They only kept 2 clean sheets at home, and they failed to score in only 4 of those. Nottingham, very similar, 25 and 13, both teams to score record, and a little bit lower, 21 and 17, over 2.5 record. But similarly, they kept 4 clean sheets away from home, and they were only blanked twice. It's just one of those things where neither team keeps a lot of clean sheets, but they generally find that one goal somewhere throughout the game. And with you got 2 of them playing each other, you got to feel like at least one of them is going to find that second goal. You look at, the hardest part about the first couple of weeks in a Premier League season, or any soccer season, I guess it's really any sport, right, is there's been a lot of news, a lot of transfers over the summer. So you take the team that you knew from last year, and then you try to go, all right, what's different about them this year? The big thing for Bournemouth is they lost. There's a great sale for them. They lost probably their most important offensive weapon, Dominic Solanke. He was transferred to Tottenham for a big amount of money. He scored 69 goals and assisted on 25 others in his last 4 seasons. So that's a lot to replace, but they do have a couple young guys that they signed with decent track records that should be able to come in. Will that happen immediately? Will that take a little time to gel? Of course, that's the gamble, right? But if they can kind of replace his threat, let's just say up front, I think both teams are going to get the chances, right? Because their defenses stink. Solanke was just a guy that could capitalize on them. So with these two guys, they have experience. One of them, Unal, he's from Getafe in La Liga. He scored 30 goals in the 2 previous seasons for the Spanish side. So it's like the data's there. These guys can score. It's just, will that gel right away? But I'm willing to bet that just because of the defenses alone, we're going to see some chances both ways. And you can get the parlay, very common bet in soccer, is you combine the both teams to score prop with over 2.5 goals. Because as you said, Prez, the total's juiced at minus 130. Well, you combine both teams to score plus over 2.5, it's even money. So that way, a 2-1 result, you're cashing in either scenario. But if we lose, we're only losing, even money on the bet. Versus it's unlikely this game ends 3-0, where you should have just taken the over versus taking this combo prop. That's kind of the difference. So I like both teams to score over 2.5. If you want to be different, just go over 2.5. That's fine too.
Nick Borman, Nick, based on the logos of those teams, Dan, put those logos back up, please. What you're saying is the Nottingham Tree and the Bournemouth Balancers are going to go over 2.5. And your shit, bro. 44 plus units since May in soccer, up 23 units in his last 7 golf tournaments. Nick has got a lot of promos going. Check his page out. His 1-year all access is only $599. He's got a 1-month promo package with Kevin Dolan for EPL at $2.99, and he's got a FedEx Cup playoff package combination. That's the one, guys. Andy Lang is included in there. Nick and Andy, two people with parents who have incredible ability to come up with creative names. Nick and Andy, the FedEx Cup playoff special, $99. Nick, we'll try to get you on next week as well to keep this FedEx Cup thing going. Guys, remember, I got my first 5% baseball play of the season up tonight. Take advantage of that. Let's all win together. Teddy, Dave Mason is on tomorrow. I'm sorry I'm going to miss that. We'll see you on Monday, brother. Take us home.
No. Yeah. Maybe we'll see you on Monday. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It's a Prez Free Zone. Be sure to come back between now and tomorrow's show. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your bets.